to the Q&A session. We have several questions for all of you, and we would like to invite three commentators that will join our Q&A session. I would like to invite Professor Su, former professor from National Taiwan University. I would like to invite Dr. Kali from Global Environment Center, Malaysia. And I would like to invite Dr. Vinay Chaviwat from Hydroinformatics Institute, Thailand. Thank you very much for joining us today. May I start with, may I invite Professor Su first for your comment and question?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pietidas, for your invitation. I think from the presentation about the case studies, we see the great participatory cooperation at all levels, including the academics and incorporated, such as in the UK and the Japan case, so that we have the models for the better extend a leading time prediction for the drug controls, and also in the UK case, so we can have a better instrument for the water quality monitoring. And I think in the Malaysia and Indonesia cases, the cooperation of the local communities and also the general public and even the individuals make the freshwater supplies for the local community possible. And I do have some comments on the flood control through detention in the Thailand case. I think that's a very good idea, and it is very feasible to sacrifice part of the agriculture area to protect the area with high economic development, such as urbans and metropolitans and industrial park. But I think the argument is on how to balance the gain, the financial gain and financial loss among various stakeholders. Such in this case, the agriculture sector might suffers from some financial losses because you change the planting date, you switch the cropping calendars, and I think that might decrease some yields, and the yield loss might cause some financial losses. You do have some compensation for the farmers, but I'm wondering, is this compensation enough to offset the loss in the farmer part? And also, I'm wondering who paid the bills for the compensation? Is that from the government public budget, or is that from the beneficiary stakeholders? And that is very important too. And I'm wondering also, is there any resistance from the farmer during the persuasion in shifting the cropping calendar? Because as Professor Lee from the Korea says, the locals and traditional knowledge is very precious and very difficult to beat. And I don't know, how does the RID persuade the farmer to comply? I think, I presume the resistance in Taiwan may be intense if we do that here in Taiwan. And for the pollution monitoring, I think the Protect-Us instrument is very great. You kind of integrate different sensors into one devices. But in the field condition, I think, especially in Asia, a very warm and humid areas, we may need extra efforts for sensor cleaning, because the outside of the sensors might covered by a biofilm from the microbe colonies and its excrement from the microbe colonies. And this biofilm, if you don't clean it up, and it will deteriorate the sensitivities of these sensors. So that's might cause an extra effort if you put it in a field condition here. And also, if you want to have a continuous observation, you might have to put it in the fields in an unattended manners. And for that case, we might have to consider the problem of safeguarding the equipment from thieves. I'm not quite sure in UK, but I'm quite sure in Taiwan we have to do that. Because because in some cases you might lose your precious instrument here. I think that will be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Su. I would like to invite all our commentators to ask the question first, and then I will invite each speaker to answer like all the relevant questions. And thank you very much, Dr. Kali from GEC. You have already posted several questions for our speakers, and thank you, Professor Kusuma and Mr. Iswan, for already answering in the chat box. And there's one question for Professor Tachikawa. Maybe Dr. Kali, could you turn on the microphone?
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Piadeta, for the opportunity. I think overall we have listened to the 5 good case studies on the water supply, flood mitigation, social economy improvement, as well as the innovation and water quality from different 4 countries. Well done. For me, it's a fantastic, very good lesson, and also good example that other countries can refer to and also can duplicate in their respective, with some localization and some modification based on their need. The thing that so I think overall is very good, but just because I have another 2 minutes, I just like to say the whole case study will be even looks better if we can include each presentation, if we can include certain aspect, if you can respond in the chat or later, like for example how for the first one, the Indonesia frog one, how they manage the conflict of water needs for the plantation and also for the fire, for the environment, and now for the community needs, the thing, and then how they manage the pollution from the things that on the technology they mentioned. So if they can get even slightly detailed, will be even fantastic, to be duplicated in the other area. And for the Malaysian case study is also very good. Obviously, we will be happy if they can show that a good example of nature-based solution being adopted on that, and how the community been empowered to maintain the technology, all this thing after the initial installation by the project and so on. That would be good. And for the third one, obviously Thailand, very interesting on how they manage help the farmers, to have a safe harvesting by shifting the planting month and so on. Just will be fantastic if they also can show whether by shifting the planting month and then save their harvesting from the flood, whether it also increase the yield of the harvest, whether there's jumped in the harvesting volume by shifting the month and so on. It will be sure that how they significantly economically also improve this particular project. And also from Japan on the prediction is fantastic. I don't want to go into model because they're good, but only I will interesting if they can share how they manage to communicate effectively and immediately once they got data to the respective stakeholders, especially the public, how to prepare, the preparedness, community resilient, how a community can prepare. That will be good for other countries, including Malaysia, where we have flash flood, all these things, how the communication, that's another core area on the flood mitigation or flood adaptation on that. And finally, not question, but suggestion to our Dr. Chris from UK. He mentioned about the water quality probe, all this thing. I'm just, my suggestion to Dr. Chris, maybe also it's a time for universities, people like you, scientists, also look into the low-cost probe, low-cost equipment for citizen science, to support the citizen science. It's good to support the private sector, fantastic. I'm not saying not good, fantastic, but also on the other hand, can you also look into that, how you can support the citizen science, where the movement been encouraged and also mobilized at even a global level, also at the regional and also local level. So with that, thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Piadeta. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kali. I would like to invite Dr. Vinay for your comments and questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Piyathida. From the presentation, I really appreciate for all presenters, and I extremely agree with you all about the PPP that used for all the projects. for the Indonesia case, I think the freshwater supply for small village can reduce the risk of flood and drought. It's really important for the small area. And also it's coupled with the university and private sector and the local people, and also local authority and the consumer. This one is the point that is very important to make the people have the same agreement. And for the second Malaysia case, that talking about Warcraft project that have the mechanism to achieve the project proposed. The first one is create the structure communication with the information and tax relief, and establish the foundation under government Tutti Incorporation Act. And the last one includes environmental protection or water security. This one also very important and very interesting. And for the third, for the Thailand case, that is the good practice for the adaptation technology to cope with the climate change. Because right now, Thailand face the climate change impact a lot from the climate variability. And I also have the question to Thailand case that how can we optimize the fast water and the patted area. That means now we know when can we release the water to retain in the flooded area, but how can we know the planted area? How can we balance between the flooded area and the planted area? This one also very important. And for the fourth Japan case, the innovation of technology is needed for the fast forecasting and the dam management. The nationwide rainfall runoff inundation model is needed for every country, not only in Japan. I think this one also should be promoted to other countries to use this technology also. And research and development for improve the prediction accuracy. I think this one also very important to make the reliability to the people, to early warning to the people how can evacuate when the flood coming, something like that. And for the last one, the UK case, the water pollution monitoring technology that should be included for full conclusion. The first is the flexible funding, innovation and business, and the policy beyond the proof and the of concept. This one also very important. I really agree with the Dr. Roth that he mentioned about the proof of the concept. I really agree for this. Thank you very much. That's all for my comment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vinay. This is very interesting, and we have so many questions from our commentators and in the chat box. So we have a very limited time. I'm so sorry, it's very interesting. So may I ask all of the 5 speakers to give the key message that you would like to share with us. You don't have to address all the questions now. We will try to have the channel, and if you could answer in the chat box, we really appreciate. So maybe about half a minute for each speaker to share with us the key message. Thank you so much. May I invite Professor Kusuma, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what we are trying is to contribute for the government's programs and helping the small villages, remote area, whenever it is under our capacity to help, because small village small community is doable for us. And we doing it also by learning something to see what is the next future skill for our university to develop for helping the people. So usually we balance between the excessive water and the water supply requirement. So always like that, yeah, the principle. And we, before we apply or we propose, we select several candidate of the area by asking the local government and local private company if there are something problem about the water supply and also flood problem. So we select the area before we propose the program. That's all.
Thank you so much. May I invite Mr. Iswan from Malaysia, please?
Okay, thank you. So thank you for all the commentators. Wakafai is a program that is a small-scale project of water for the people in the rural area. So some of the project in the Malaysia, from the governments, cannot build in the rural area because of the cost and everything. So Wakafai is the another method that's a very not cheap, but the less cost, 50,000 in Malaysia, in Semenanjung Malaysia, and 70,000 shilling in the Sabah Sarawak. So and then it less dependables on the government. So it encourage the awareness for other peoples in the Malaysian people. We don't focus on the Islam religion. It's also for the other regions. So because one of example the villages that we do is in the Siam villages. We also help them. So it's not an individual or religions, but it's more to the community people to help the community people. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iswan. May I invite Dr. Chakapon from Thailand?
Thank you for all the interesting questions. First of all, I would like to tell or answer that the compensation is paid by the government, and this project, the idea is to reduce the compensation by share the benefits to, like, government try to support the water for farmers in dry season and to guarantee that they can harvest their crop before the flood came. So basically, we don't measure the income like the yield of the project. And how are these persuade the farmers? Like I already said, we guarantee the amount of water when the plant or the crop really need water. And how to balance demand and supplies. Basically, the idea is to provide or supply the water in the right amount at the right time for the right plant. Thank you very much. If that can answer some question, because I don't have enough time to answer all of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chakapon. May I invite Professor Tachikawa from Japan?
Thank you very much for very nice and very important information. New prediction technology was very quickly implemented by private companies, and actually these private companies actually already send these information to dam managers or local government or central government. But very important is already, I think, questioned by two researchers. It is not allowed to send this information to public, or only in Japan, community or public, only Japan Meteorological Agency can provide prediction information. So this is of course due to still, I think that to send the information to open everybody, I think how we can trust this information, or how we can interpret this information, that is very important. So still, I think that part is really important issue, and how we can effectively utilize these very detailed information to the community of public is still very big issues. Now, this information is developed and it is possible to provide to some kind of professionals through the private company. But very nicely, very important is new technology is very quickly implemented by private company, and it is possible to issue this information to professionals, water professionals. Yeah, this is the current situation. Thank you very much for very important questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Tachikawa. May I invite Dr. Chris from UK? Yes, please.
Thank you. And it's very, very good questions. If I very quickly try to answer 2 or 3 of the questions, I agree about sort of biofilms and the problems with contamination of the sensor, and the sensor actually has a wiper, so rather like a toothbrush that spins around and cleans the sensor. But it's really important to look after the sensor. And one of the problems we have is that sometimes there can be confusion depending upon the suspended sediment load, and that's why we think site-specific calibrations are needed, because the differences in sediment type. I agree also about theft, and it's a problem everywhere. We had a sensor in a stream by the Birmingham campus, and it was completely stolen. And so the security of the installation is sort of key. And I really agree with the point about citizen science, and we all have, I think, sort of access, or most people now have access to perhaps the most important sort of thing these days, which, if you can sort of see it, just the mobile phone. And if we can actually sort of take, say, optical sensors and sort of try to derive information from people's photographs about, say, water quality, whether that's sort of turbidity and so on, then really I think that makes a big sort of difference. And it's how we can use sort of sensing techniques that everyone has in their phone, and derive environmental data from that. That's really, I think, invaluable. But thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We would like to thank all the 5 speakers for our part 2 session on the case studies, and this our effort to prepare the policy brief under UNESCO. And we also have some other case study on the PPP in water management also. And I would like to thank all of our 3 commentators. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Jeffrey Goh, for your comment on the contact and information of all of our speakers. We will ask for permission from all our speakers, not only their contact, but their PowerPoint presentation to share with our audience as well.